Hey, welcome everyone. My name is Mathew Schmalz, and I'm editor-in-chief of the Journal of Global Catholicism. And this is part of our continuing series of interviews with scholars in the field of Catholic studies, broadly understood. And so it's my great pleasure to welcome Dr. Kenneth Parker, the Ryan Endowed Chair for Newman Studies and Chair of the Department of Catholic Studies at Duquesne University. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I perused your professional website, and you have quite an interesting professional and personal journey. So could you share some of that story with us?
Sure. Just briefly, I was born in 1954, the year of Brown versus Board of Education
Yeah.
in North Carolina. And my father was a Pilgrim Holiness pastor.
Wow.
And my mother, a very devout person in that evangelical tradition. So I was raised and nurtured in an evangelical home. Like a lot of college students, I found myself going through a period of spiritual quest during my undergraduate years, and found my way into a deep examination of the Catholic tradition during my junior and senior year. Made me realize that I wanted to turn my interest in history into a study of the history of Christianity, and continued that work at Fuller Theological Seminary in historical theology, and came in contact with a monastic community in the Mojave Desert that really transformed my thinking. And even though I went away and did a PhD in Reformation history at the University of Cambridge under Eamon Duffy, the interest in, the desire to explore the possibility of a monastic vocation didn't go away. So I studied, I went to the monastery and was a monk for 5 years. They sent me to Fribourg, where I lived with Dominicans, and in the professorial priory there in Fribourg.
Oh, wow.
And then after a period of discernment, decided to return to academic life, and found my way after a couple of years to St. Louis University, where I taught in the PhD program in historical theology there at SLU. And in 2016, the National Institute for Newman Studies invited me to become the interim director of that institute. And the following year, Duquesne University invited me to take up the Ryan Endowed Chair for Newman Studies. So that's a very brief overview, but I became a Roman Catholic while I was at Cambridge University. Okay. And have been deeply involved in not only deepening my own experience of the Catholic tradition, but also see it as a part of my own personal mission to engage in irenic engagement with other people of other Christian traditions and interreligious dialogue.
Wonderful. Well, that is, a wonderfully, I don't know, I would say empowering story about, how your intellectual journey and your faith journey intersect. And so you ended up at Duquesne. Can you tell us a little bit about Duquesne?
Sure. Duquesne University was founded in 1876 by the fathers of the Holy Ghost Fathers. They now call themselves Spiritans. It's a missionary order primarily that is was dominated in the 19th century by French and Irish and German fathers. They were invited to come here to Pittsburgh to work with and engage the immigrant community that was rapidly growing here in Pittsburgh. And they started a kind of an academy that grew into a college that became a university. And so Duquesne now is sort of the regional flagship university for Western Pennsylvania, and has a variety of professional schools and graduate programs up to the PhD level.
Is there still much spirit and presence at Duquesne?
Well, their provincial house is right on campus. So we while their presence is not as extensive because of the reduction of their size, they remain very present on campus. Our campus minister, for example, director, is a Spiritan.
Okay. So tell me about the beginnings of Catholic studies at a Catholic university.
Right. Duquesne's Catholic Studies Department began as a presidential initiative by President Ken Gormley. I was called into the provost's office in the summer of 2019. Not something that every faculty member looks forward to.
Yeah, I understand.
And so I was rather surprised when I was presented with this request that I pursue a Catholic Studies initiative. To my surprise and to the delight of our administrators, I sort of stumbled into a very generous donation that funded the department for 3 years. And so we began in earnest in 2019, 2020, planning the creation of this department, and attracted into our planning committee some very significant high-profile faculty on campus. Our former dean, James Swindoll, a philosopher, joined the team. Dr. Kathleen Roberts, the director of our honors college, who's a sociolinguistics expert, she joined in. Dr. Bill Wright from the Theology department, our New Testament scholar, requested a primary appointment in Catholic studies. So, and I'm a historical theologian, so we came into this work already a very interdisciplinary department, and that really is what sets Catholic studies aside from other projects like the discipline of theology or the discipline of philosophy.
Okay, it's fascinating. And can you talk a little more, building on that, on how you conceptualize Catholic studies, especially vis-a-vis theology?
Right. Well, first of all, and I don't say this defensively, but descriptively, Catholic studies is not a shadow theology department or a shadow philosophy department. From its beginnings about 30 years ago as a movement, Catholic studies has been characterized as a project that sees the disciplinary lines blurred, based on a very simple principle that in the Catholic tradition we're interested in everything.
Right.
And so there's nothing that we study. There's no area of knowledge that is not in some way touched by the tradition. So we welcome partners from many different disciplines and professional programs. In our teaching, we do a lot of cross-listed courses that bear the mark of interest in the Catholic tradition, whether that's psychology, sociology, political science, communication and rhetoric. The list could go on and on. We have a very generous and enthusiastic and diverse collection of folks who are interested in helping this project move forward and grow.
Great. So could you share a little bit more specifically then about how the program is structured? So say I'm an undergraduate and I'm interested in Catholic studies. What would my curriculum look like?
Well, we've got a major and a minor.
Mm-hmm.
While the major is officially a standalone major, we promote it as a second major, and the minor is one that incorporates and is very friendly to the use of courses in our
Mm-hmm.
core curriculum that we call bridges, to building up and creating a minor.
Mm-hmm.
Our tagline, when asked about what's distinctive about Catholic studies from other majors, we make the point that while your primary major is about the what and the how of your future, Catholic studies is about the why and the for whom of your life. And I find that that's a very attractive concept for students in this era, when we really are struggling with the very reality of the possibility of truth in our culture, and students are eager to find some kind of framing of their system of values in their life.
Wonderful. So you mentioned a number of distinguished faculty at Duquesne who are involved in the program. Can you talk a little more about what you see as the particular strengths of Duquesne's program?
Well, I was saying this just yesterday to a member of the board of directors. One of the great strengths of our department is that, with one exception, we are a department of full professors. So we're seasoned academics, veterans in the classroom. We have a deep commitment, not just to the curriculum, but to the lives of our students. So we make ourselves available and feel comfortable, not only in the classroom, but also in conversation in our offices, in presentations to student groups, in creating social opportunities that are connected with the department, that are intended to build community. So in those ways, the department really does have a group of seasoned academics to help grow the program. The downside of that, of course, is that we're made up of full professors, and so in looking forward to the future, certainly one of the things that we're looking to do is recruit and cultivate and form younger faculty who can be a part of our program and carry on what we're seeking to start here.
Yeah. So you mentioned before that Catholic studies in some ways addresses the why of education. Can you talk a little more about the important questions that Catholic studies addresses or can address, both in the classroom and through scholarship?
Sure. Well, I think in our society and in our world today, one of the biggest questions is how do we form people who are deeply committed to the dignity of every human person, and so one needn't be a confessional Roman Catholic to be attracted to Catholic studies, because at its base, the principles of Catholic studies is about shaping and forming people who are eager to make a difference in the world. We're really interested in creating lay leaders for the next generation of the Catholic Church. And so we see our role as being one that's primarily constructive. We don't focus on, while we don't shy away from contentious issues in our teaching and in our classrooms, what we do want to emphasize is the constructive role that the tradition and the Catholic community can play in the lives of these young adults.
So let's talk more about those contentious issues. In my experience, Catholicism in the United States is very politically polarized, and that bleeds over into discussions about Catholic studies and what Catholic studies is about and so forth. How do you negotiate or navigate some of those controversial issues in terms of, first, the way in which Catholic studies is construed, and second, talking about issues in the classroom that might be controversial?
Right. Well, I should first point out that I'm an early modern scholar. So studying the Reformation has sort of prepared me for eras of contentious and divisive issues, and it doesn't surprise me.
Right.
And of course we are living in not just a religiously but politically polarized environment, and that's something that we can either lament or we can lean into and recognize that if we're truly going to live a life guided by the Gospels, we've got to find ways to love one another, even in the midst of our differences. I mean, if I were to characterize myself in early modern terms, I see myself as very Erasmian and an Irenaeicist in my approach. I want to listen. I want to understand, and that's what I cultivate in my classroom, and my colleagues are the same.
Okay. That's very well put. And, especially the ironic quality of, what we should be doing and so forth, I think is very well taken. So obviously the Journal of Global Catholicism is interested in global Catholicism. And so, to what extent do you think that is, an area of Catholic studies that's important to engage? And if so, how we should engage it?
Sure. Well, although we're a baby program, we've only been in existence for really less than 2 years. We've, for a range of reasons, had an opportunity to be actively engaged at the national level and at the international level through a couple of projects, and I'll explain.
Yeah.
We discovered an opportunity to collaborate with the trustees of the Pontifical Irish College a couple of years ago to search out the potential of a formative collegiate experience in Rome in collaboration with the pontifical universities there, principally at the moment the Gregorian and the Angelicum. And the vision for this is not simply to recreate another American study abroad program that's insular, that it's turned in with American faculty teaching American students in a kind of American bubble in Rome. But really enabling students to encounter what the global church is all about in the place that is the center of unity in the Catholic tradition. And so we have a number of U.S. institutions that are engaged in this collaborative multi-institutional project But we're also talking with, we've also got a growing enthusiasm with the bishops of Ireland to send Irish students, lay students, for periods of study in Rome. There's the Undersecretary for Education at the Vatican is discussing with us the possibility of Austrian and German students joining in to an English language program at the Angelicum and at the Gregorian, possibly other pontifical universities. But the point here is that we recognize that Catholic studies at its base is about forming young lay leaders. And so it's a natural progression in Catholic studies for us to shift into those kinds of discussions once we leave the American bubble, where Catholic studies is primarily located as a movement, and talk about it in a global context. And we're in conversations with institutions that are dealing with people who are truly marginalized around the world, refugees, and the potential of bringing them into this experience as well, to give them a space where they can they often don't find themselves in, where it's okay to talk about their faith in an academic, intellectual context, where it's okay to think about what it means to be committed to the life of the church, whether that's, in some form of dedicated vocation, or in a Catholic marriage where they have children. I had one colleague in a conversation that we were having with the archbishops of Ireland last week, who made the observation, you want to send folks to this place because they're going to be the parents of the next generation of priests and religious. So I feel very excited about what Catholic studies can mean for the life of the church, not just here in America, but globally.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we'll conclude the interview. And thank you so much, Ken, if I may.
Sure.
And this has been a wonderful opportunity for us and the Journal of Global Catholicism. So our thanks to you.
My pleasure.